The brilliance of Landman Season 2, Episode 1 is not just in the introduction of Sam Elliott and Billy Bob Thornton, but in how their presence immediately disrupts the delicate balance we saw at the end of Season 1. The episode wastes no time reminding us of the chaos left behind after Monty Miller's death. That sudden vacuum of power isn't just a storyline, it's the engine driving every single character's decisions this season. Cammy, played with chilling precision by Demi Moore, steps out of Monty's shadow and directly into the lion's den. Her words in the trailer, "The only difference between me and my husband is I'm meaner," are not just bravado. They're a promise that she will not be sidelined, not by Tommy, not by Monty's legacy, and certainly not by any man who thinks he can control her. And yet, standing across from her is Tommy Norris, a man who has always thrived in chaos but now finds himself in the most impossible position of his life. For the first time, Tommy admits his vulnerability when he says, "She owns the company, but I run it." That line is more than just a statement. It's a warning that Tommy knows his grip is slipping, and he's willing to bend every rule, cut every corner, and take every risk to keep what he believes is his. Enter Pops, Sam Elliott's character, whose shadow looms larger than either Tommy or Cammy could have ever prepared for. Pops isn't just a father. He's the ghost of everything Tommy has tried to escape. His introduction at the end of the episode isn't played as a warm reunion, but as a seismic shift in the entire series. When Tommy calls him Pops during that uneasy phone call, it's more than a term of endearment. It's an admission of fear. Fear of the man who built the original foundation of this empire, and fear of what happens when that man decides to reclaim it. Imagine being Tommy in that moment, already juggling a cartel alliance with Andy Garcia's character, already managing a fractured family dynamic with Angela and Aninsley, and already preparing for war with Cammy. Now layer on top of that the return of a father whose influence is legendary, whose voice carries more weight than any cartel boss or oil magnate, and whose legacy threatens to eclipse his own son. That's not tension, that's a ticking time bomb. And yet, just when we think we understand the stakes, Billy Bob Thornton arrives to raise them even higher. If Pops represents the past that Tommy cannot outrun, Thornton's character represents the ruthless future barreling straight toward him. Sheridan is a master at crafting unpredictable wildcards, and Thornton fits that mold perfectly. He doesn't play by anyone's rules, and from the moment his character steps onto the screen, you can feel the ground shift beneath everyone's feet. Where Pops wants respect and legacy, Thornton wants disruption and control. He's not tied down by family bonds or loyalty. His only allegiance is to power. And that's exactly what makes him dangerous. Because in a world where Tommy and Cammy are locked in a bitter battle for dominance, Thornton is the kind of man who can swoop in, exploit the fractures, and make the empire his own. The beauty of this setup is how every storyline converges into one giant storm. On one side, you have Tommy trying to protect his family and hold on to power while battling demons from his past. On another, you have Cammy, who is determined to outmaneuver every man who doubts her strength. Then there's Pops, who believes the empire still belongs to him and will stop at nothing to impose his will. And finally, there's Billy Bob Thornton's character, a man who thrives in chaos and knows exactly how to weaponize it. What Episode 1 makes clear is that this isn't just another season about oil, land, or even cartel deals. It's about legacy, betrayal, and survival in its rawest form. The suspense comes from knowing that none of these characters can truly win without destroying the others. Tommy can't succeed without undercutting Cammy, but in doing so, he risks losing everything his father demands of him. Cammy can't cement her power without outmaneuvering Pops and Thornton, but doing so places her directly in the line of fire. And Pops? He can't reclaim the family legacy without dismantling Tommy's authority piece by piece. Add Thornton into the mix, and you have a powder keg waiting to explode. Episode 1 isn't just a premiere, it's a declaration. Sheridan is telling us that the gloves are off, the stakes are higher than ever, and the battle for West Texas oil has only just begun. What makes Landman Season 2 Episode 1 so gripping is the way Sheridan layers tension on top of tension until every scene feels like it's about to combust. The episode doesn't drag its feet with filler or slow introductions. Instead, it thrives on immediacy. We're pulled right back into the aftermath of Monty Miller's death, and the ripples of that moment touch every single character in ways we didn't fully anticipate. For Cammy, Monty's widow, this isn't just about grief. It's about stepping into power that no one believed she could hold. Her words to the bankers, "The only difference between me and my husband is, I'm meaner," are not idle threats. They're a battle cry. And in Episode 1, we begin to see her deliver on that promise. The Cammy we see here is not a woman hiding behind her husband's shadow. She is the architect of her own empire. And her determination immediately puts her at odds with Tommy, who still believes he is the only one capable of running things. Their conflict isn't a subplot, it's the heartbeat of the season. Every sharp look, every veiled threat, every exchange between them feels like a chess move, each one raising the stakes just a little higher. But then comes the curveball, the cartel. Andy Garcia's character, who looms in the background of Tommy's dealings, adds a dangerous new dimension to this power struggle. For Tommy, working with the cartel isn't just reckless, it's survival. He knows Cammy is gaining ground, and he knows Pop's return threatens his authority, so he leans harder into his most dangerous partnership. The cartel offers him muscle, resources, and leverage, but it also chains him to a world that could destroy everything he's trying to protect. This is where the suspense hits hardest. Tommy is caught in a vice grip, squeezed between Cammy's rise, Pop's return, and Thornton's unpredictable interference, all while the cartel tightens its hold around his neck. The man who once thrived on bending the rules is now trapped by them, and Episode 1 makes it painfully clear that even Tommy Norris might not be able to wriggle out of this one unscathed. And then Sheridan plays his masterstroke, Pops. Sam Elliott doesn't just walk into this story, he dominates it. His arrival is staged not as a moment of comfort, but as a revelation, a reminder that Tommy's story began long before we met him in Season 1. Pops represents the roots of the Landman legacy, the original power broker of West Texas Oil, the man whose choices shaped the world Tommy is now trying to control. The tension between father and son is electric. Not because they scream at each other or trade insults, but because of the weight of history that hangs between them. Every word, every pause, every glance carries decades of unspoken conflict. Tommy fears him, respects him, resents him, and yet still seeks his approval. And Pops? Pops sees a son who has built an empire but still lacks the ruthlessness required to hold it. That tension alone could fuel an entire season, but Sheridan isn't content with one storm. He adds another. Because right when Pops reclaims his place in the story, Billy Bob Thornton enters the arena. And this is where things truly explode. Thornton's character isn't tethered to Tommy by blood, and he isn't bound by the rules of family loyalty. He is the outsider, the disruptor, the man who thrives when others are tearing each other apart. If Pops is the storm from Tommy's past, Thornton is the wildfire of his future. Unpredictable, uncontrollable, and utterly relentless. His presence forces everyone to rethink their alliances. Is he here to help Cammy solidify her control? To undermine Pop's authority? To take advantage of Tommy's desperation? The truth is, we don't know. And that's exactly why he's terrifying. Sheridan knows that unpredictability is the sharpest weapon in storytelling, and with Thornton, he wields it with precision. By the midpoint of Episode 1, you can already feel the walls closing in. Cammy is maneuvering with ruthless confidence. Pops is preparing to reassert his dominance. Tommy is clinging to control by making deals that could destroy him. And Thornton is circling the battlefield like a predator waiting for the perfect moment to strike. There are no safe harbors here, no guarantees of survival. Every alliance feels temporary, every smile hides a dagger, and every decision carries consequences that will echo through the season. And that's what makes this episode not just entertaining, but electrifying. Sheridan isn't giving us a slow build. He's throwing us headfirst into a world where every move is life or death, and the only certainty is that someone will lose. What makes episode 1 so unforgettable is how it ties every thread, family, business, power, and legacy, into one suffocating knot that no character can escape from. Tommy Norris has always been the man who finds a way out, the one who knows how to bend the rules just enough to survive without breaking. But in this premiere, we finally see him cornered on all sides. On one side stands Cammy, wielding her new authority with ruthless precision, reminding everyone in the oil business that she is not a grieving widow but a queen ready to claim her throne. On another side stands the cartel, its shadow stretching over every decision Tommy makes, forcing him into compromises that erode the very foundation of his family and his morals. And now, looming largest of all, is Pops. Sam Elliott's towering presence, embodying the weight of legacy and the crushing expectations of a father who will never see his son as enough. These forces don't just threaten Tommy's control, they threaten to break him entirely. Watching him navigate this gauntlet in episode 1 feels less like strategy and more like desperation, and that's exactly what makes the story so intense. Sheridan is showing us a Tommy we've never seen before, vulnerable, conflicted, and dangerously close to collapse. But just as we begin to process the chaos, Sheridan turns the screws tighter with Billy Bob Thornton. His arrival is timed perfectly. Just when the audience thinks they understand the new landscape, Thornton enters to shift the balance once again. What makes him so menacing is the fact that his motives are shrouded in mystery. Is he an ally, an enemy, or something far more complicated? His reputation precedes him, and every character knows it. Unlike Pops, whose power comes from history, or Cammy, whose strength comes from seizing Monty's empire, Thornton's character moves like a phantom, untouchable, unpredictable, and utterly dangerous. He doesn't need to scream to command a room. His silence is enough to send shivers down the spine. And that unpredictability injects a fresh dose of suspense into the already volatile mix. The audience can feel it. This is a man who could undo everything with a single decision, and no one would see it coming. Meanwhile, the family dynamics are just as explosive. Angela, ever the anchor in Tommy's life, tries to keep her family intact, even as the storm rages around them. Her loyalty is unwavering, but even she can sense that the ground beneath them is cracking. And Inslee, on the other hand, is stepping into adulthood, leaving for college with the weight of her family's legacy pressing down on her. Her departure isn't just a subplot, it's a symbolic reminder that the Norris name carries consequences that reach far beyond the oil fields. And yet, even as Angela and Inslee provide emotional counterpoints, the focus never strays from the central conflict, the battle for power. It's a battle fought in boardrooms, family kitchens, and cartel backrooms, and no matter where it happens, the stakes remain the same. Everything. By the time the episode barrels toward its conclusion, the suspense is unbearable. Pops has made his presence felt, re-establishing himself as a force to be reckoned with. Cammy has proven that she's not only capable of playing the game, but perhaps better at it than anyone expected. Tommy has exposed cracks in his armor, showing us just how fragile his hold on power truly is. And Thornton? He has positioned himself as the dark horse, the figure who could tilt the balance in any direction whenever he chooses. The brilliance of Sheridan's writing is that no character feels safe. We're not watching a story where we know the hero will triumph in the end. We're watching a battlefield where victory comes at impossible costs, and survival itself feels uncertain. Episode 1 doesn't just set the stage, it detonates it, leaving us desperate to know who will emerge from the rubble. The closing stretch of Landman Season 2, Episode 1 doesn't just serve as a conclusion. It's a warning shot for the entire season. From the very beginning, Taylor Sheridan has shown us that this is not a story about clean victories or straightforward heroes. This is about survival in its rawest, most brutal form. And Episode 1 makes that message clearer than ever. The death of Monty Miller may have ended Season 1 with a shocking twist, but here, it serves as the spark that ignites a full-scale war. Cammy's declaration of power, Tommy's desperate grip on control, Pops's reappearance, and Thornton's enigmatic influence, each of these elements collides in the premiere, creating a volatile atmosphere where no one can predict what will happen next. It's a setup so masterful that the audience cannot look away, because every word, every look, every decision carries the weight of betrayal and the threat of destruction. Cammy's storyline in particular crystallizes in the premiere. When she steps into Monty's shoes, she doesn't stumble or hesitate. Instead, she thrives. She proves that she is more than capable of handling the oil empire and more than willing to crush anyone who doubts her. What makes her so compelling is the way she walks the fine line between elegance and ruthlessness. On the surface, she's polished, confident, and articulate. But underneath, she's sharper, colder, and infinitely more dangerous than Monty ever was. And this new Cammy doesn't just threaten Tommy's authority, she challenges the very identity of the Norris family itself. Her rise is not simply about controlling a company, it's about rewriting the rules of who gets to lead in West Texas. And with every move she makes in episode 1, she chips away at Tommy's control, leaving him cornered and increasingly unstable. But just when we think Cammy might emerge as the undisputed power player, Pops steps into the frame. Sam Elliott's portrayal is nothing short of commanding. His first full appearance isn't a warm family reunion, it's a clash of generations. The tension between father and son radiates in every exchange, even in the moments where few words are spoken. Pops doesn't need to explain his authority. His mere presence is enough. He represents history, tradition, and a level of ruthlessness that makes even Tommy hesitate. When Tommy calls him Pops, it's not a sign of affection, but a signal of unease, almost as if Tommy himself reverts to a boy in his father's shadow, and that shadow looms large. Because if Pops is indeed the original Landman, then his very existence calls into question everything Tommy has built. Did Tommy ever truly own his empire, or was he simply borrowing it until Pops returned to reclaim it? Episode 1 raises that question, and it's a question that will linger all season long. Yet Pops is not the only storm Tommy must weather. Billy Bob Thornton's character, while still shrouded in mystery, is introduced in a way that instantly sets the tone for his role in the season. Unlike Pops, whose power comes from history and blood, Thornton's power is all about unpredictability. He doesn't have to prove himself. His reputation precedes him. And that's what makes him so terrifying. He moves like a predator, circling the chaos, waiting for the right moment to strike. In a world where Tommy is stretched thin between Cammy's ambition, Pops's dominance, and the cartel's demands, Thornton is the element no one can control. His presence ensures that no plan is safe, no alliance is stable, and no character is untouchable. By the end of episode 1, it's clear. Thornton isn't here to play a supporting role. He's here to turn the entire board upside down. Meanwhile, the cartel storyline simmers dangerously in the background, never letting us forget that Tommy's survival comes at a price. His uneasy partnership with Andy Garcia's character is a ticking time bomb. For the cartel, Tommy is a means to an end, and the moment he fails to deliver, they will replace him. Or worse. This subplot isn't just about business, it's about morality. Tommy's willingness to align himself with criminals reveals just how far he's willing to go to maintain control. But at what cost? How much of his soul is he willing to sacrifice? And how long can he keep his family safe while dragging them deeper into this dangerous underworld? Episode 1 doesn't answer those questions. It sharpens them, forcing us to confront the possibility that Tommy may not escape this season intact. Angela and Aninsley's arcs provide a haunting contrast to the chaos. Angela remains Tommy's rock, standing by his side even as the walls close in, but we can feel her resolve beginning to crack. She sees the toll this war is taking on her husband, and she knows the cartel's influence is a poison slowly spreading through their family. And Aninsley's departure for college adds another layer of tension. Her storyline is a reminder that the Norris family isn't just battling over land and oil, they're fighting over their future. And while Aninsley may not be in the middle of the power struggles yet, her distance from home sets the stage for new storylines about legacy independence, and what it means to carry the Norris name into a world far beyond West Texas. By the time the episode reaches its final moments, the suspense is unbearable. The cartel looms, Cammy asserts her dominance, Pops reclaims his authority, Thornton hovers like a storm cloud, and Tommy struggles to hold it all together. And then comes the cliffhanger, Pop's full reveal. His presence is staged as the ultimate punctuation mark, the kind of moment that flips the entire series on its head. We understand instantly that nothing will ever be the same. Because Pops isn't just another character, he is the living embodiment of everything Landman represents: legacy, survival, and the brutal cost of power.